I'm going to introduce our keynote speaker today, Ozzie Gonzalez, LEED Architectural Design Technician at CH2M Hill. Ozzie was trained in architecture and environmental science and has been involved with sustainability since 1996. His involvement in the building industry encompasses design, construction, education, and advocacy. As a LEED accredited professional, Ozzie consults with project teams involved in the design, construction, and certification of green building projects. He also provides continuing education seminars to architects and building professionals on various sustainability topics. In his free time, gosh, I wish I had free time, Ozzie serves the community through various volunteer positions. He's a board member at both the Jardin Portland Foundation, the Miracle Theater Foundation, and he's a Sustainability and Equity Committee member at the Oregon Association of Minority Entrepreneurs. Welcome, Ozzie.
Good morning, PDC, and thank you, Chairman Andrews, for the introduction. It's a treat that I get to come out here today to speak with you on this Earth Day. It's Friday, happy Friday. Glad we're making it, and I would say happy spring-ish because it's kind of warming up. But we do have a wonderful weekend ahead, is what I hear. I'd like to acknowledge the fact that, you know, it's an honor for me personally to be invited to come speak with you, PDC, as a group, us on this day of Earth Day. It's a unique opportunity, and I want to make sure that I bring a special message for you today. And I want to make sure to acknowledge all of the folks that have put this event together. So thank you very much for the baked goodies, and to the green team, to Dan and Anna for inviting me to come today. And I just needed to say, I had to get this off my chest, that blue cheese almond scone is blowing my mind. It's amazing. I don't know who made it, but thank you. And I'd also like to recognize the fact that my company was very supportive in letting me steal away from projects to come out here this morning and spend a little bit of time with you today. So there's an amazing theme, and you introduced it very nicely, about all the progress Earth Day has made over the last 42 years. What began originally as this idea of teach-ins on university campuses throughout the United States has now grown to become the single largest secular holiday in the world, celebrated by over 180 countries. Over 1 billion people are gathering in rooms just like this. We've got the whole city full of conference rooms and gathering spaces where staff from agencies, both public and private, are coming together for a common purpose, and it's really just to step back and reflect upon Earth Day. And I invite you to come with me over the next 20 minutes to take a step back and reflect upon the wonderful things that Earth Day brings to us. Because even though we're not going to be able to spend this Sunday together, all of us have this opportunity that we're being given in Earth Day, not just to pull away from cubicles for a couple hours, but to reflect upon that relationship between the air in our lungs and the trees that surround us. It's an opportunity once a year where we get to celebrate that celestial courtship between the sun, the moon, and planet Earth. All of those things that make the miracle of life, this magic thing, happen for us here today. And Earth Day is the moment where we get to just step back and reflect on that reality. Because it's the reason we're here, it's what motivates us to persevere, and if this world wasn't what it was, we wouldn't be as motivated to preserve it. It's a beautiful thing. And so I come today not so much as an architecture professional to talk about green building and the link between the building industry and global climate change. I'm not here to talk about, as an environmental scientist, about greenhouse gas emissions or the pollution of water systems. We're addressing those things on multiple levels. I wanted to come today and reflected on the theme about community and social equity, and I decided to come to you today as a human being, as a fellow Portlander, as somebody who's in this with you, trying to make a sustainable and diverse and thriving local economy. And I came with two things. I've got a message that I'd like to share with you today, and I've got a task. Now, I know you probably didn't come here thinking you were going to leave with homework, but I promise it's something that will be good for you personally, good for you as an organization. So, the good news is that my message comes with a story. Now, this story takes place in a little town in the suburbs of Los Angeles County called Covina, California. Not sure if you're familiar with it. Very good. And the edge of Covina, California has an industrial section. In the midst of this little farm community that was converted to suburbs, there was an area that was on the other side of the tracks where there were scrap metal yards. There were alleys. There was a mechanic shop. There was a recycle center that collected gas or glass and plastic and metal. And there were the backs of condos, the backs of commercial developments where you got to see how resources came and went through that city. The year is 1983, and just as Michael Jackson was finishing up Thriller, and just as Dallas was hitting its peak of fame in the U.S., I was this 6-year-old boy in love with the playground that I grew up in Covina, California. It was an industrial wasteland, but it was my playground, and it was the playground of the two neighbors I had to each side. We were this little island, 3 homes in the midst of all this scrap metal, all of this urban waste, and it was my home. I was an alley rat growing up as a kid, and I remember that right next to the scrap metal yard, there was this empty field that I'd always see people go in and ride dirt bikes, take their BMXs and jump off the hills that were created. And at the age of 6 years old in 1983, I was determined to get myself a BMX bike so that I can get into that space and enjoy it. It was the open space that we had in our neighborhood, if you will. And I remember very distinctly that it was so important to me, I decided to take it up with my folks. I was not in a position to be asking for things normally, and I knew that this was not a small request, so I made sure to couch it. I wanted to say, it's going to help me get to school. It's going to help me get a little farther in the neighborhood. I won't rely on you. I can help you bring milk, whatever it will be. I need this bike. And my dad was a smart guy. After about the 4th day of hounding him, he just turns to me after dinner and says, "Mijo, ven, vamos a caminar." He says, "Son, come here. We're going to go for a walk." And he took me outside for a leisurely stroll. We went around to the scrap metal yards, and he showed me where they start stockpiling the pieces of equipment or machinery or whatever it is that they're breaking down. He took me by the bus depot and showed me where they have their dumpsters on the side. And then he walked me across the tracks and he took me to the public park, and we walked around the edge and he pointed out the trash cans and said, look at this stuff. All these things that I'm showing you, you can go in there and you can find things, and you walk over there to that recycle center and you can turn it in and they'll give you money. Now, to a 6-year-old, that was an earth-shattering reality because it opened my eyes to the fact that inside of those dumpsters, inside of those trash cans, in those piles of scrap, there was money and there was empowerment. Within 6 months' time, I had not only bought a bike, I'd gotten the pegs to put in the back so I could ride my friends, I was buying candy, and I had, for all intents and purposes, started up a little enterprise. We and my small team of 3 alley rats were wandering around, and we would play in the park, and we would make sure before we took off to go back home, we'd stop by, knock the cans over, see what's in them, and recover what we can take over to the yard to turn into money. And I cannot stress enough how fundamental of a reality that was for me and how much it really shaped all of the future. Now, when I got involved in sustainability in 1996, it was after many, many years of processing this reality that came to me when I was 6 years old. And it's the message that I realized then and I'm bringing to you today. And it's this: waste is an illusion. Waste is nothing more than a construct of the human mind that says, we don't know what to do with that thing quite yet. We're not sure how to use it, or we think we're done using it. So let's just call it waste. Put it in a pile. Deal with it later. And I grew up in a mentality where waste was a luxury that I really didn't have. When we hear that proverb of one man's waste is another man's treasure, I was that other man. I was the one finding waste and saying, you know what, I can turn that into money. I can strap that to my bike. I can use that to create a game or a toy, whatever it may be. But there was resources all around me, and I was not without. I felt like I was living in a land of abundance. And so this idea of waste being an illusion, I bring to you today for a very specific reason. So let me just put it into context for you as a group, as PDC. I know that you're involved in some magnificent work, and I think this idea of waste is especially relevant today to PDC because of your mission. You have a mission that is very clearly destined towards creating a desirable city, an equitable city. Sustainability is at the top of the agenda, and it is a very special thing about being Portland. And granted, there's a legacy PDC has developed that you have a lot to be proud of. And there's a lot of initiatives that have taken place since the 50s when PDC was initiated that have transformed pockets of the neighborhoods, created jobs for people. And they have now, I see in your procurement process, you've instituted a support for small business. And all of these things are taking us in the right direction, creating equity, creating sustainability, emphasizing the value of diversity and collective participation. These things are just part and parcel of your genetic makeup now. And so this goal of sustainability is intricately linked with social equity because, as we well know, you can't have sustainability without equity. Why is that? For the simple reason that inequity is a form of waste. Inequity is a waste of human talent, of human potential. Inequity is a missed opportunity for a human to achieve what their hearts desire. So when we remove inequity, when we remove barriers, we're simply paving the road for somebody to define their path and to contribute to society. And in today's reality, we can't afford to be wasteful with human potential. So removing inequity does an amazing thing for our goal in sustainability. Now, all of these things that you have done now have shown remarkable progress. And you've also shown in your latest initiatives the NPI, the Techlandia I just heard about recently. These are indications that PDC is on the move. You guys are adapting to new tools. You're listening to the world around you and adapting your procurement process, the programs, the way you measure the performance, the goals of your new initiatives. You're utilizing what we are evolving, the understanding that we're evolving towards sustainability. And it's wonderful that you have now made social equity and empowering communities and community vitality something that is right there with revitalization. That is a magnificent thing. It's also a really difficult thing. The Eco Districts Initiative and the initiative with the Living Building Challenge, all of these things are touching upon this new veil of equity and community vitality. The Portland Plan has brought that in to the forefront. So now we've tied social issues, environmental issues, and economic issues and made them one thing and saying, when we solve one, we're solving the other two. And that's a wonderful thing that we're doing. But again, it's not an easy thing at all, by any means. And so as you move forward and you roll out these initiatives, and you start really looking at social equity and diversity and what it does to your overall mission, I recognize that you not only have a very difficult job to do, but it requires a very specific set of criteria. Social equity requires that you are able to tap human resource. And social equity requires that you're able to tap the social and the human side of what people can contribute. When you define a boundary, you are creating a line around a place that already exists, that has people in it, people with potential, people with talent. But the ability to manifest that talent and to empower it, enable it, to actually leverage it into a project is only limited by your knowledge of what's out there. So, even though you have a very difficult task of exposing people to those options and empowering them, there's a very simple way to begin this process. And, well, that's what brings me to my challenge. Now, the challenge I have for you is going to help with social equity. It's going to help with community vitality. It's going to help make you a healthier person. And it's going to help you be a stronger member of your community. And it's simply this. Let me get some water. Ah, nerves make me parched. I would say this. My challenge to you is take a walk. Take a walk, very simply. Take a walk, whether it's alone or with a group, whether it's with your staff or your family, take a walk. Whether it's here, around the place you work, or the place you live, or one of the projects that you're associated with, take a walk. Get to know that neighborhood. Check out the back, the guts of it. Try to understand how resources are moving through it, whether it's the people, or the glass, or the metals, or the services. Get to know those places for their public amenities. Get to know those places for their natural settings. You might find that they don't have very much. It might just be a little patch where dirt bikes can play. Get to know that infrastructure, because that becomes the foundation to what you have to work with. It's your original kit of parts when you're trying to create community. Now, we all know that, much like myself, there's a lot of folks that have come in from places all over the world here over the last 10 years. We've seen a huge change in the population of Portland. And the rain's washing most of that background away. Don't worry, we're all becoming Portlanders. But we are really in an interesting time, because a lot of us have moved here to Portland, whether it's to raise a family or because we wanted to be involved with a specific organization, or it was simply a job. We've come here with a very special love for the place that we've arrived to. Portland has been handpicked by a lot of people for its unique livability criteria. And so we have a very special thing going on here. And we, as all these newbies, must reach out to each other. If we're going to mature as a community, as a civilization here, locally, we got to get to know each other. We got to be able to reach across, meet our neighbors, and get to know what social amenities, what social resources are available to us. Because, you know, if we're going to be a sustainable, thriving local economy, that is really the most untapped resource that we have available today. So take a walk. Get to know that stuff, because you may find a resource that you didn't expect. You may find a sense of empowerment that you were not anticipating. Just like I did when I was 6 years old and I took that walk. Because when it comes to community vitality, this is not something that you can really learn in a textbook. It's not something that you can apply a theory to, and it's going to be the same every place you go. No, every community is going to be different. Every solution is going to be unique. And the street is our laboratory when it comes to community vitality. So we got to be unafraid to try. Just start something. Figure a way to leverage a community resource. So the streets are our lab. So before I send you off today, I want to make sure that I don't leave you without a bit of context for the big picture. because the work that you guys are doing in PDC is really a macro idea. Revitalization, community vitality takes a long time. And you may lose sight of that in the day-to-day diligence of what it is to close a loan, get to that meeting, to talk to a stakeholder group, bring in another partner. All of those things are very important to the big picture. But sometimes we just get set into what we're doing for this hour, for this day, for the next deadline, that we may lose sight that what's going on here is amazing. This is some big time stuff that PDC is involved with. So I'm really pleased that I get to talk to you today and share, my honor to be able to say, great job, guys. You may not have all done it personally, but you're involved with an amazing thing. So don't lose sight of that. And be patient, because these things do take time. Now, I've told you, waste is an illusion. And we can't have equity without sustainability. And inequity is a form of waste. Now, I've told you that the mission of PDC is about tapping into those social resources. Part of PDC's mission is about empowering those communities, helping them to contribute. And you guys know it's not an easy thing, but I also want you to know that you're not in this alone. It's not just your problem to solve, okay? I'd like to illustrate this notion with something here I brought. Two things that we all see every day, and I don't think we think about how amazing they are. There's two problems here that have been solved. We all have some of these. I use this one every day. And here's my phone. We all have probably one of these, sometimes two. And these represent a very interesting new reality that we've got here. And it's the power of collective innovation. Because you know something? If this breaks, I don't know how to fix it. If this breaks, I have no idea who to go to. Because the reality is, if I go to Apple and I even go to the factory, I'm not going to find a single individual who knows how to make one of these things. Because it's not one idea. It is a collection of ideas. It is a set of ideas that are built upon older ideas. And this would never have been possible if we were not able to collaborate on a set of ideas and put something together that's far, far greater than the sum of its constituent parts. This is new. We're able to achieve a level of collaboration that has no precedent in our human history. We are now at a time in today, 42 years into Earth days. We are living on a planet where the age of information has pushed the boundaries of what we considered possible. And we are now in a moment where literacy is growing at an all-time rate. Education is becoming available to people that have never had it before in their life or in their history. Communication now is enabling us to share ideas like this. It boggles my mind to think that what is coming ahead is just impossible for us to conceive. Cloud computing is now enabling us to solve problems. One little bit at a time, a very complicated problem can be solved by thousands of people across the world, across time zones, one little piece at a time. We're now finally able to operate as a collective brain. And I'm telling you, the problems that you have with enabling and empowering social equity are going to begin to bring other voices to the table. And those voices are not waiting to be invited. The internet is enabling people like never before to communicate, to share an idea, to share a perspective that was otherwise voiceless. In 2010, out of the 7 billion plus people that were on this planet, 2 billion were online. By 2020, it's estimated 5 billion people will have logged onto the internet. That's 3 billion new voices, 3 billion new minds that are going to join the conversation and are going to share a perspective. And we have no idea what that's going to help us solve. But we know that out of those 3 billion people, there's going to be a lot of value there. Whether it's a Maasai warrior in Kenya, or a Toltec priest in Oaxaca, or a single mom on 42nd Avenue. We have no idea what's going to become possible because of these 3 billion new voices that are coming online. So the problems that we have before us are very complicated, but it's only through a collective process, a collective set of thoughts, that we're going to be able to encounter them. And so it's something that fills me with a lot of optimism. I really believe that we are in a moment that is very exciting. We're in an amazing point in time. The next couple of decades are going to reshape our whole notion of what we think is possible. And so, as we move into the advances of the information age, and we get ever higher information, we're now able to make more informed decisions. In the age of information, we know that we have access now, dangerously close, to what we're calling the triple bottom line analysis. We're now beginning to make decisions not just on how much something costs, but we are also asking, well, what is the impact to environmental health? What does it do to the air or the water? We're also asking, what does this do to our local economy? What does it do to the health of people? A triple bottom line decision will give you the availability of environmental issues, economic issues, and social issues all in one. And we are getting amazingly close to making that something that we will base all of our decisions on. And just as the original founder of Earth Day, 42 years ago, Senator from Wisconsin, Gaylord Nelson, believed that for us to stem the tide of environmental destruction, all we need to do is provide people with the facts clearly. They will make the right decision. And even though the world has changed so much from 42 years ago, that one idea still prevails within the environmental movement, is that if you provide people the information, they're going to make the decision that is in their best interests. And when they realize that their health, that their prosperity is linked to a healthy planet, a healthy and diverse economy, then they will make the decisions that are going to help us towards the goal of sustainability. So, even though we don't know what the information age will bring, we could think that maybe it's going to bring better choices, maybe it's going to bring better options, but we're not sure. What we do know is this: we are just scratching the surface of a new age. And it's going to be an amazing time for us to be alive. And this promise of prosperity that is represented by a world free of barriers, free of waste, where human potential can be brought to its full capacity, is possible. And most importantly, this promise of sustainability is one thing that's just way too awesome to pass up. So with that, I want to thank you.